To start, we have some housekeeping formalities before we commence. The toilets are down the hallway about halfway and just in on that side opposite the artwork. In the case of emergency, some staff will get us outside either the front door or the back door. We would appreciate if you could switch your phones off or put them onto silent, and I hope I just got that right with mine. I would like to begin by acknowledging and paying respect to traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Nurrungeri people whose ancestors from which we meet here this evening. We pay respect to all Australians who have made and continue to make a positive contribution to our culture and the way of life that we live in this country and we live and share in and together Australia. I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome representatives of SA Water, and Joel will introduce them in a minute when we're online. They are online tonight. I'd just like to thank my fellow elected members, Deputy Mayor Councillor Peach is over here, Councillor and Bland is there, and Councillors Qualman are down the back. Councillor O'Hara is definitely on holidays still, and Councillor Roundtree is an apology. She's on tonight. Who did I miss? Got you all. Tonight's public meeting provides an opportunity for Wellington East community to learn more and ask questions about the proposed water supply upgrade. I'd like to welcome Joel to the front. Joel is Council's Capital Projects Manager, who will take you through a quick presentation on the East Wellington Water Supply Project. I'd note that we have some people watching this session online. Thank you if you've sent through some questions. We'll go through them perhaps after Joel's technical presentation. And if you think of any further questions that have not been answered during this evening's session, please email. That won't be able to be answered tonight, but please email them through to Council's email address, which is council@coorong.sa.gov.au. Be answered and included in the frequently asked questions document. For our community members in the room, can I please ask you hold your questions or jot them down on sticky paper if you're game until the end of the presentation. Then we'll have a discussion just as we did last week at Wellington. Real bugger having no fingernails. When you're asking questions, perhaps we either bring the mic to you or you come to one of the mics on the councillor positions, please, so that people who are online can hear your question. Righto, Joel, welcome. Joel's our Manager of Capital Works, and he'll go through the technical part. I might just ask, we can just get through how it would physically work before we get to the financial part, which I know is concerning many people. Welcome, Joel.
Welcome, and thank you for coming along tonight. It's good that there's such an invested interest one way or another in what we're doing here. What we're putting forward tonight, what we displayed last Thursday, in the interest of consistency. There's obviously quite a few people here tonight that were present last Thursday, but there are quite a few people here that weren't here, and also online that are not here, that weren't there last week. So we want to present the same level of information in that regard. So without further ado, we'll get to the presentation. The Mayor has done the acknowledgement. So session overview, why the project's been considered, what is the result for the residents, what is the project in terms of construction, what are the project costs, and what are the next steps. It's been a journey to get to this point. To cover off all these dot points, we've been working hand in hand with SA Water to come with this proposal. So I do acknowledge Julie Arbin, who's online. She's SA Water's Business Development Manager. And I've also been working closely with Stussy Dallas, who is SA Water's stakeholder and advisor, along with a whole range of technical people that have assessed our current system, provided the it's been quite a large team putting it all together. There you go, that's not. Oops, one too far. There we go. All right, project motivation. Township growth and development So expanding the system with further development along the current system still proposed. There's a lot of vacant allotments. We're at capacity already in terms of what our system can deliver. We're already suffering from inability to keep up through peak periods in summer when everyone's watering their gardens or high water usage. If we were to expand our current system, that would come at a significant cost anyway. Through, I guess, the SCOSA fund recovery that we're required to do, that would be a user pay type arrangement. So, there's some challenges there. Public health risks. So we've got E. coli, various bacteria present in the river that we've got no control over that we're supplying to households. We supply non-potable water, but we have no control over how people are using it, which is a concern to us. It's a big risk for council. It's probably one of the bigger risks that you can have as a council. Potential blue-green algae outbreaks. Obviously, we've got it out in the ocean environment. It's probably only a matter of time before there's something in the river at some point for a period of time. How long? Don't know. Where? We don't know. But it's another thing that we can't control. If it were to be at Wellington East on the river, we would probably be forced to shut the system until we knew that that was under control. Value for money service, obviously the management of the current system, ongoing costs to council, sampling, compliance, reporting, overheads, that goes up every year. Maintenance costs due to the condition of the water. So a really high sediment concentrate in the water just leads to deterioration on valves, pumps, impellers, meters, all that sort of stuff. So the maintenance, we have various sediment balance tanks that require sediment cleaning. The more water that goes through them, the more we have to clean it. Sediment fouling water meters just discussed. Obviously, we have meters at your houses, but we also have meters so that we can measure overall usage. That maintenance goes up as more water goes through them. And again, the wear and tear on pump infrastructure. And the other one's reliability. We can't control when the power's on or off. And if it goes off, obviously the system goes down as well. So we then can't have a continuity of service. River level extremes have obviously had a bit of everything in the last 10 to 15 years. Again, an uncontrollable for us. Flood and drought, there's the consideration that more redundant in terms of the extraction points into the river needs to be considered. Might need multiple points, constant altering of them because of the river level fluctuations. All of that leads to extra maintenance. So let's talk about SA Water and the service improvements that we want to convey that would be realised under their service delivery. Obviously, you get reliable drinking water direct to your dwelling. Get a stable water quality, comes straight from the Tailem Bend treatment plant. There's no restriction on the use. High peak periods. What we're proposing is adequate to supply the whole of Wellington. So the current system is only a percentage of what it is capable of. Obviously, constant pressures, which is convenient, not affected by natural events and power outages. And then concessions for financial support. Concessions and financial support for eligible government concession card holders. So, and whilst there's not a displayed number to that, but it's in the order of 30% potentially on your usage and your quarterly fees. So, when you start considering that and the costs that it costs us to run the system and what we have to charge you, there is potential that water under SA Water would be cheaper than council supply. So the project overview, we would like to obviously deliver a water main that will allow the provision of drinking down to Wellington East. We want to transfer the current system to an SA Water owned and operated system. It'll be connected to the main SA Water main from Talumben to Meningie, and then it'll be distributed out to the properties via the existing network. So, you know, there are a few upgrades. We'll go through the project specifics, but obviously a 1.168 kilometre, 250 mil PVC water main connecting from the Talumben Meningie Road. There's a factoring in of various water meters that need replacing that have already been assessed and by SA Water. Backflow devices were required, and then various things to get the current system up to an SA Water standard in terms of their network. So replacement of hydrants, putting in cat's eyes to mark valve points and hydrants, painting of fire plugs. And then one of the trickier things, but a crucial part, is the sanitisation of the existing network. So council's current network, that will become SA Water's network once the transfer project is complete. And that would involve, obviously, a flushing of the system in lots so that we can progressively work through the whole network and get it up to a drinking standard certification. That process doesn't just happen overnight. SA Water have to go through a bit of a regime of testing to get it to a point where they've got full potable certification. Envisage about 4 to 6 weeks to achieve that. Once they get to the point where it's certified potable, that's when transfer to them. There's a whole undertaking around that we ourselves aren't even at to the point of talking how that will work with SA Water, but it's probably more about like the asset side of it, council writing off the value of the asset, SA Water taking it on. It's sort of about that as a deliverable. Project costs. So I guess the interesting fodder for everyone. So we've got this is a rounded number, but a $2.5 million upper limiting fee for construction, which includes a council contingency amount on it. So in SA Water's construction cost estimate, like any construction contract, there's always exclusions for various items: rock, contaminated soil, any unforeseens that, potential that can't be predicted. So council to date has chosen to put a bit of a buffer on top of their cost estimate to try and mitigate that going forward when construction occurs. We've received, I don't say we've received, we have a successful grant for $1.17 million that was announced by the federal and state government. We're just on the cusp of finalising that grant agreement, so that is quite confidently now secure. We've got some further grant funding through the state. That isn't confirmed, it's verbally confirmed, but we're yet to formalise and execute any grant deed or agreement. So through the request of the state, we're not able to convey any details on it until it's formalised, but in principle, it's agreed. So obviously, $1.9 million worth of funding. There was a lot of other funding streams that we tried to get a hold of, and I can promise you it's not like a trying that we couldn't get the full amount. The reality is we've got to a point where we've got one stream of federal funding and one stream of state funding. You can't go get another stream of federal or state funding. So we just had to say yes to what was presented to us and try and work the best way forward to present a proposal to the users. With the $600,000 shortfall, I guess, from the grant funding to the upper, or I guess the construction fee, let's call it, we are currently, or council is currently proposing that we have a contribution from the current connected properties to allow the transfer project to occur and to allow SA Water, potable water, be supplied to the properties. That will only be charged to the green properties on the maps that everyone has seen. that is a separate rate provision. The reason that we chose a separate rate provision is that it will admit, sorry, let me start again. It's a separate rate provision, so that all our debt and hardship policies are applicable to it. The amount is labelled as an upper limiting fee. So obviously our cost up the top is an upper limiting fee. SA Water have, I guess, in principle told us invoices only for the works that occur. So if the work occurs for less than the cost estimate, they'll pass that savings on to us. We will pass that savings on to the end user in terms of that separate rate amount. The end charge will just be a proportionate amount. Total shortfall divided by 220. So yes, that's the numbers. We had some really robust discussion around that last week, and we're under no illusions that this is a challenging proposal. But to this point, it's what council feels is best in terms of equity for the whole district. We're proposing something here that benefits a very defined group of residents, doesn't benefit the whole council resident base. You know, a lot of council services that we invest money in elsewhere in other towns are available for anyone in the district. It's your choice if you don't go and use it. Anyone in the district can't come and use this water service. So on that basis and in the interest of equity, we believe it not to be fair that other ratepayers impose the cost. Common questions, and happy to, I guess we're probably at the point where people want to start asking, but I can step through this. Just talked about why am I being asked for a contribution? Why isn't council financially contributing? I just discussed I guess the methodology behind that. As I discussed last week, it's not that council hasn't contributed. Council's contributed nearly $300,000 to get to this point through feasibility studies, through a cost estimate and detailed design process, through staff time, in working through grants and things like that to try and get the funding to make this happen. So council's invested a lot already. What if I can't pay? Again, you know, we're proposing an initial mechanism here. If that is the mechanism, you know, we're more than happy for people to come in and that hardship provision that we've got through our policy. I guess find some terms that you feel you can meet the needs of it. You know, we're prepared to be flexible in that regard with those that need it. Question 3, if we choose to go to SA Water, will our council rates reduce due to no maintenance of the current water supply? What will happen to your council rate is that our current charge, any charges, whether it be the supply charge or your usage charge, will be removed from your council rates. You will not be charged by council for it anymore. You'll be charged by SA Water for your water usage, but any charges from council will be removed. What will an SA Water connection cost once the project is complete? So for reference to the map, the blue or purple properties, as the Mayor likes to reference them as, for those properties that will become beneficiaries and be able to connect to it, depending on 20 mil line, 25 mil line, distance from the main to you or where you want your meter, somewhere in the order of $4,500 for SA Water to connect you post the transfer project. How long will construction take? Indication, this is not a big project for SA Water. This is a small project for SA Water. I've sort of indicated they can get through construction in about 8 to 12 weeks. So no sooner they'll be in, they'll be out, and we'll be working through a sanitisation and a transfer process, which will probably take longer than the actual construction of it. The yes, They don't specifically know yet. It just depends on how it's a bit of a sliding scale. It could take 4 weeks, it could take 8, but they think about that between a month to 2 months to get through. Yep. Sorry, I didn't. It's a bit of a very definitive answer. They don't know until they start the sanitisation. They don't, they need to see how quickly the system cleans up. And the testing, yeah. So it's a regime. They've got to sanitise it, then start running the potable water through it, and then they've got to test it at various points through the network to see that it meets a criteria for it. How long will my water be off for? Again, a bit of an open-ended question, but it generally will be limited to no longer than a day at a time. So there will obviously be a couple cut-off points where water will be off. That'll be when they initially connect the system in. Might take a day to do that. And then through their sanitisation regime, that'll, they're sort of indicated that will sort of wait till after peak periods in the morning, then start their sanitisation regime. It'll be done in lots. They'll be able to quarantine down areas that they shut off. They won't just shut off the whole of the supply network. They'll just do Jefferson Court, for example, in one day. Takes longer than a day. They'll put the water back on overnight, come back the next day, resume the sanitisation process, systematically work through the network until they get it done. But indication is that no longer than one sort of daylight hour day. It was a requirement to put rainwater tanks when developing my property. Why did council make us do that? Obviously, this has been one that's been really, I guess, responded to a lot to us. We get it. The requirement for rainwater tanks comes from the state planning guidelines. We just administer what the state requires us to. We don't actually get a choice as to what we administer there. How will council water its green spaces? We're still working through the scoping of that, but we think we can do a level of work to use our current pump infrastructure to still water them just with potable water, which, an effective way to do that in terms of council. Beg your pardon. Thank you for correcting me. Will the new water main from Princess Highway have sufficient volume for all of Wellington East? Covered that off already. Yes, it will. It will have the capacity to do all of Wellington East if future developers and SA Water come to agreements for a lot of those yellow coloured allotments that are on the map. So I don't know. There's a few other questions floating around I can have a stab at, and then I'm happy to throw to the floor.
Well, I'll start, John.
Yeah.
Give you a breather. So these are questions that have been asked online at the last meeting, in various forms. How much does council currently pay for the water for Wellington East non-potable water? We hold a Class 1 licence for that purpose, which is a stop licence, and I might add that a part of that volume is to be given to the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder. It will go to the environment as part of the condition of the federal grant, the 1.17 million. Part of those conditions is a part of that licence will go to that. That's the long and the short of that. So council does have a water licence is the short answer to the question too, and we have water licence for other purposes as well. So I didn't introduce the staff. The CEO, Bridget's here, and there's many staff in the room. There's about 8 of them today. So I thank them for all the work they've done. There's an enormous amount of work that's gone into this at a variety of levels. Have tests been undertaken to find out if currently used infrastructure would withstand SA Water mains pressure? The short answer is yes. Been a lot of work done over the last 2 years, I think, and we're well aware that some of the mains are 50, 55 years old, and they might have some pressure control applied to, I think, one street in particular, but that wouldn't really affect anything. So SA Water, better look at it in this way. council's been considered a developer in the way this has been dealt with. So we're going to effectively, on your behalf and with your help perhaps, pay for a renewed system and then give it to SA Water. That's the process that's really being enacted or trying to be enacted here. So they won't take it off us unless they're satisfied it's to their standard, that they're the same as the rest of this district and most of the state. Were all residents told these potential costs when asked if they would like to have SA Water? It's a very vexed question. I understand some people have some mixed views on, some people thought it was for free. I also understand people have seen a press release from the federal and state ministers some 12 months ago, it's behind me, which said that there would be there'd be 2.4 million available. That press release, I'm sorry to tell you, was wrong. And the challenge while we did inform them that was wrong, were they going to retract something they put out? The short answer is they haven't. So I'm a bit of a, don't smack the hand that's given me the gold in terms of the grant. The amount of work to even get that 1.17 of federal money was enormous. And I think some confusion came out of we had to work with another council to build the bulk of that grant up to a figure. I think that's where the federal press release may have been misleading. If SA Water do take over, will council staff have more time for road maintenance? Well, perhaps not those staff, but generally will free up some time within the business for other important things. What I would say, and one of the driving things around us really thinking it's better SA Water run the system, A, is I think it'll be cheaper in the midterm, but B, the compliance costs to run our water schemes, and also our community wastewater schemes are just continuing to rise. The amount of form filling we've got is incredible. And so, we think this is a viable option. Just might talk about this for a second. At the moment, we wouldn't be having cost recovery out of your scheme. We just wouldn't. And we're required by ESCOs, the Essential Services Commission, to do that. And when we did some work 2 years ago around would we be able to do it cheaper than SA Water, the answer was no. So we feel the best option is to move it to someone who can A, do it cheaper and B, do it better, I'd suggest. How we going, Joel? I'm going to worry when you say that to me. Well, we'll get to the sticky questions. So I might just say at the moment that this meeting forms part of the public consultation process we have to do as part of proposing a separate rate. So tonight, and particularly the principally, is that part of that process. We would have done this earlier, and as in the budget process, if we knew the figures before we set the budget, but we simply did not. And up until the decision in the last month when we set this public consultation in place, that's one of the governments did change some of the criteria in the last 24 hours before we even made the decision. So there's been quite a tortuous process of trying to get enough money and to get it happening. Why are East Wellington residents now being asked to pay for council's past failure to make the original developer or developers in this case, where they should have been handled through proper planning and financial safeguards? So, very good question. I suppose no developer has said ever that it's potable water. Would be the first probably point I need to make. There's been 3, if not 4 developers over time on the room, I think. We can have a debate. I suppose I'm here to try and deliver today. And I've seen it we've looked at how we might change or improve this scheme for I can remember a report in 2002 around this process. Nothing was ever viable until during the drought, the federal government paid for a water line from Taylor Menengi direct. Nothing was ever going to be viable prior to that. They, on that period of time in 2008 and 9, when it's Sharon, would not hook on East Wellington. Now, don't know, they just would not have a bar of it, so we couldn't use that then. So I'm trying to work out how I answer that. At some stage, we're going to have to try and deliver this process. Otherwise, we're going to go on having this debate for another 25 or 30 years, and I don't think that's fair on anyone. So yes, should council within the rules of each day apply the standards to each developer? Yes. But they change quite constantly. Has the council planned for future savings by no longer having to provide poor quality drinking water to residents, including any costs related to health or compensation? That's a really difficult question. Yeah. So the current water scheme is a cost recovery process. And I would say that we haven't been recovering our costs, the present system, up to this point. Now, there's been a reluctance in the chamber to try and recover the cost due to the fact it wasn't much of a system. Saying that, ASCO's is driving us to recover the costs, and be it the rubbish system or the community wastewater scheme, that's our, the rules we live under. Given these future savings, shouldn't the council be seeking state or federal funding or low interest government loans instead of asking residents? We have been. Work that we've been doing internally in the building for the last 3 years in particular, three and a half years, to try and get a grant to convert a system has probably been the most stressful part of what we've been doing the last 3 years, actually. But it's just because we're treated not as a new service or an opportunity, we're treated as a conversion and therefore as a developer. So we're trying all the time with federal and state governments, and that's the biggest face constantly, is we're not in a marginal seat. Am I online? Hello. Has the council considered past mistakes, especially regarding rainwater tanks decisions? So Joel's tried to address that. Look, I'm well aware that each developer and there's developer encumbrances on that in different stages over the life of this marina. I can't go back and council can't enforce encumbrances on rainwater tanks, but in a planning code sense, we have been in the last 10 or 15 years, because that is the part of the planning code. So council, one of the more difficult parts of being a council, the council laws and staff don't really get any discretion on what we decide. We just enact in the building and planning space, health, the state and federal requirements. And I think the state, I'll start to the camera again, the state and federal government loves us for it, because they can blame council all the time when they make all the rules. So, the rainwater tank decision, and I'm well aware that involved then some people having, with smaller blocks, not having no space. I don't think we can change that. No one's going to stop you going on using your rainwater tank, by the way. I'll go to the more interesting ones. Why isn't the high residential rates paid in East Wellington being directed back into East Wellington? I think it'd be fair to say, we obviously look at our whole network and everything as it comes up for renewal, and because it's relatively new, it doesn't need perhaps urgent as other areas. Saying that, we believe as the council that we need to get the water system fixed first. This has been, now I'm not saying we're putting off some jobs, but there's opportunities once the water's fixed to do other things. And you pay the rates on the same residential basis as everyone else in the area. I'm well aware that your values are higher. So has council tried everything they can with the state and federal governments to get more money for this project? Short answer is yes. It's different to a playground, it's different to a road, it's different to a lot of things, this one. And it really comes back to, we are being not a developer, but we're being treated as such to convert this to SA Water's operation. I might emphasise, council cannot give the concessions that the federal government provide to SA Water around that 30% discount. So if you were a concession holder in the future, we believe once you converted to SA Water, you would be eligible for. Righto. I'm happy to take questions, all and sundry. Wendy, we'll start with you. And of course, council elections are only 12 months away, so more than welcome.
I just wanted to congratulate council and the work, particularly the staff, I know that that would have been a huge amount of project management and investigations. I believe that the public consultation process for this has failed to fully consider the health and safety. And that's what I'd like to speak on more so than the financial side. It risks exposing the community to issues ranging from water quality questions, safety and risk assessment, as well as financial stress-related health impacts. I understand, Joel, you've answered some of my questions. I've been led to believe that the first two streets in East Wellington have earthenware or clay pipes, which were laid in the 70s and 80s. Has a camera been down those pipes to see the integrity of them? Are the residents privy to that information? Are there any hairline cracks within those pipes which could allow the contaminants from surrounding to infiltrate into the new drinking water? Shall I shall I finish and then it's up to you. I haven't read the regulatory standards for the Australian drinking water guidelines, but perhaps you could answer it towards that. My understanding is that potable water should not be supplied through the earthenware that's been established already. What reassurance will be provided for the water quality and safety and the testing requirements? You've answered pretty well. And if they're flushed and disinfected, sanitised, as you claim, old clay pipes still carry non-potable water and can be considered unsafe, especially with the bacteria in the hairline cracks. How will that be controlled and monitored by SA Water? So, Joel, you may not be able to answer some of this, but certainly, yeah, if you could.
Yep. I'll speak here so everyone can hear me. To our knowledge, SA Water have assessed our whole system and understand that it meets their requirements for the delivery of potable water. So I haven't dug a hole down those first streets. I can't sit here and say if it's clay or not. All I can comment on is that it's been assessed and SA Water are comfortable it meets what they need to do. So give you that commentary. I can take a bit of it and just ask some of that detail from SA Water. That sort of clay pipe, assess the whole system. We believe they have. What I would say is if any part of the current suitable for what they need, it would have been part of the construction. It would have been proposed at X place before we take it over.
May not cope, but there has been quite a rigorous process around that because of those concerns. And the
Bridget should have a mic.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry. I'm just saying we were really very particular. It was one of our biggest concerns, particularly not so much about the hairline crack, but that the fact that our system was quite old and that it may not withstand the pressure of a SA system. But all of that testing and all of that work has been done, and it was done late last year, and we got that report probably mid this year. And so SA Water are very familiar with what that system looks like, and they're quite comfortable that it's, and the things that Joel showed you on the screen about the things that need to be replaced, they will be replaced, but that's part of the inbuilt costs. And the sanitisation process, which is a bit like Joel mentioned, we don't know whether SA Water can't tell whether it'll be a 4-week process, a 6-week or 8 weeks, because they have to certify it to the standards you mentioned. And so they're not, they won't be able to tell that until they actually work through the process, and they may have to do it a couple of times.
The consultation, I believe, has overlooked the health impacts of forcing residents into a system that they may not trust or be able to afford. Some people agree with it, some people don't. Either way, we're just making that noted. Financial stress directly affects the physical and the mental health of people within their community, forcing vulnerable residents such as retirees or those on fixed incomes to adopt a new and costly system, creating a strain on and anxiety and reduced wellbeing. I think you've answered that sort of respectfully. Health and safety are not only about the water quality, but the broader social aspects. And I don't think that that's been perhaps focused on enough. And I apologise to be critical, but I just felt that that's needs to be taken on board, because there's a lot of upset people out there that may or may not want the water, but it's particularly the cost. The other thing is the risk assessments. Have they been undertaken to consider the potential of the earthenware and clay pipes on bursting, as we know in streets in Metro? What, if any, are the emergency protocols that you have in place for the residents that still have those pipes in situ on their allotments?
I'll do the cost one, and the health one. You're right, the health one has got several elements. And I suppose when we were weighing up the risk, and I suppose the flood that came down a couple of years ago was the thing that really highlighted that the supply of water into Wellington East and the water that was coming down the river, unknown quality, was probably one of the biggest risks from a health perspective to this council and to the residents at Wellington East. So it was the impetus to get moving on this project, because we know that another flood will come at some point. And if we have no potable water there, the same sort of risk will be exposed. And Joel, I think, mentioned the algal bloom. Now, we know that's in the ocean and at the mouth of the river, but it will be only a matter of time. But a similar, we did have blue-green algae during the flood. In terms of the cost, again, very sensitive to, and that's why there's probably a multitude of options in a sense. We know that some people will be quite happy to pay up front. We don't know whether that's one person or two, but there will be some. There will be others who will be able to, I suppose, spread it over the 8 payments, which is with your rates. And then because it is a special rate, and that was really important as well from a council perspective, so that you could then have a payment plan if it didn't work. So the hardship provisions, like any rate payment, can come into effect, and you can have that payment plan spread over a period of time. And that's really something that you come, it's a mutual agreement at the end of the day. So it was those 3 elements we thought covered most people's circumstances. But look, there could be another category in there.
So I'll just again with your clay pipes, take that on notice, and I'll take the relevant information rather than give you something that's potentially not accurate.
Yeah, g'day. You mentioned that it was a bit unfair for the rest of the district to contribute to the paying of the water. My question is, how many projects around the district has the council funded that we don't use? You say that we could use them. And my main question is, did the council contribute to the Meningie skate park, which I'm sure not too many people here would use?
It wasn't very pretty when I was on the skate park, I can tell you. It's a good point. And look, we're sort of contained, take your point, contained by the fact this is a sort of a defined service. A lot of the skate park was mostly funded by some federal money during COVID. There's been In the last 6 years, there's been several funding streams due to drought, Murray-Darling Basin, and then COVID, what we call LRCI money, which is now basically all expended. That council would have put some rate money in and would use some of that for projects, and some of them had certain deadlines. So if this project was ready to roll, I think we probably could have used that LRCI. I'm looking at the grants officer who's given me that look of maybe.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So this has been one of the challenges with this one. There you go. This is one of the challenges, is how we were hoping. I can tell you the most nervous time was when Joel had to open the quote from SA Water to do the job, because it could have been a lot more. Now, I know someone said we could put a lot cheaper pipe in, but SA Water standards are really high for very good reasons. And so our challenge is, and this is a challenge for the elected members, and I might just make this point now, the council will probably make a formal decision, all things being equal, in our October meeting, councillors, which I'm happy to have. It's a public meeting on the, what date is it again? Sorry, 21st of October at 10 a.m. in this building. So if people want to have a petition around this, public question time, they're all open during the council meeting, and we might adjust the council meeting to deal with that. But I'd really encourage everyone and everyone online to just submit whatever they think in email form per file, because the councillors will get all of that in a public agenda. That'll be a fully public process. So come back to 2750 and the angst around that. Now, we understand that. There's lots of ways of looking at it. One of them is, if SA Water, you were connecting to them today and the pipe was going past your place, it's over $4,000. That's, I suppose, the first point. So in this scenario, you get everything. You're effectively sort of doing that by default under this conversion ratio. If up to the elected members, and I trust even after some more feedback, we'll be prepared to look at other options. This is a proposed rate. Council may choose to take a different path. I would be very surprised if council does not want to go ahead with this, because we've been the amount of energy that's been put into this process for so long, and although some people have known this has been, trial for 10, 20, 30 years, we think we've finally got a viable option. I know it mightn't appear like that to you with 2750, and that will be the maximum I would believe that you could be charged. If it comes in cheaper or there's other ways of reducing it, we will better reduce it. So go on.
The Meningie State Park, which we not use, when you said that.
So all right. So it's about a $370,000 program. Some rate money, some mostly grant money. I would have thought. I'll just get the CEO to come to the.
I mean,
Yeah.
Council, I won't put any money.
Well, I'd argue we have.
Further money.
Well, maybe.
Money he's going to use.
Yeah. So this gets to be the really interesting part of this discussion, and I'll happily have it. For example, we've got a jetty at Narang right now, needs basically replacement. So that, 200, 300, 500. Should we do that? Should we build roads that $300,000 or $400,000, luckily mostly funded by the federal government? Should we put a new fence around the playground at Tailem Bend? Should we fix the car park across the road, which is coming up now? Should we, and this is an ongoing program we're having now, if it's about $75,000 per railway crossing to hot mix them, make them safe along the main railway line. We pay that. So I know we could say, should we, how much should we fund of what some people might think is nice to have versus the day-to-day running costs? But I suppose at some stage, we want more for our community than just the most basics is probably the bigger challenge. And I'd be fair to say that quite a few of these projects would not have happened without that amount of federal government money came through in the last 6 years. Started with drought money. We started with 1 million one month, and then they doubled it the next month. Now, once again. So if this, yeah, I don't know whether any of those funding sources, if we had this project ready, we could have funded. I would have loved to have this ready. No disrespect to SA Water, COVID just locked everything down within their organisation, and I'd acknowledge Deputy Premier Susan pushing this along, to be quite honest. Like, your question's relevant. It's probably moves to that general ratepayer part. I'm going to go to Ricky next. He's going to get the mic. He's down the back and he's such a quiet speaker.
I've just got a quick one. You say with the hardship, if you go down the hardship and sort of extend your payments, is there interest on that charged on the hardship payments? That's just what you know. If you spread it over instead of 2 years, 4 years, is there interest charged on?
You're spreading it over the 8 payments, which is the 2-year one. There is no interest, but if there's a payment plan in place, then that would be negotiated.
So you're saying there's going to be interest?
Well, no, I'm saying it would be negotiated if you'd look at it, because some people come along and only want to pay the minimum amount, which stretches it forever. It would be negotiated, and we'd look at what the options were.
So just on that, yep, good question. So at the moment, when the project's complete, there'll be a day when we'll hand over to SA Water. It'll just be a day when we'll stop sending you the bill and they'll start sending you the bill. I've lost my train of thought. Interest payment. So council, yes, thank you. So council will be wearing that payment. We'll have to pay SA Water when we hand it over, the 2.4, whatever. That's what we'll have to do. So we'll be wearing that interest cost until we get paid that money back. So in the reverse, we're paying the interest.
Just to clarify, both the one that has been secured and the one that needs to be formalised, both of them are going to be claimed post project completion to pay everything up front. That's not something we fund through our general stream. That'll probably be funded through. We're going to be paying interest on the process. So, you know, there's another contribution that council's probably not going to pass on in any way, shape or form, but that it's just, I guess, something to be noted.
Thank you. I just had a question in regards to if the outcome of this consultation and what you've asked the community to vote on is no. You've mentioned the risk to the community and the risk to council for health and things that have been raised here. What will happen in that situation if people vote no? And I know you've got a lot riding on grant funding and that as well that has to be acquitted. So what will happen if that's the case?
Yes. Very, thank you for the challenge. I'm making an assumption that we'll lose the grants if we don't acquit them. They go. So probably this process will not be entered into again for a while. That would be, I suppose, my fair assumption. It would provide us with quite a challenge in, do we try again in a different form? Do we start the whole process again? SA Water are ready to go. Now, I know that sounds like I'm applying a lot of pressure to you, but we couldn't bring you figures until we had the figures, and that's only really been there. Oh, well, the 7 elected members and me get the final say. Sort of that's the raw end of the deal. Councillors may choose to make different financial arrangements yet if they think that's wise. That's up to them on that day. Councillor Coleman, you want to speak to your mic though?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I sat here, everybody, because I got a terrible hearing and this is my normal chair and I feel comfortable with the microphone. Thank you, lady. That was quite interesting and well done. And I too share many of your thoughts. I actually share, and what the CEO's raised is when we have the flood events and the health. This drinking water, well, it's not drinking water, it's terrible water, and the system needs upgrading, and I'm glad we got this far. I do feel a little bit uncomfortable with the amount on the separate rate of $27.50. I think that is excessive, and some people will also would be okay with that. There will be some people who will be stressful with that. And I can't emphasise any more that through our hardship policy that we endeavour, embrace it, and make people, encourage people to come down and negotiate, and hopefully won't get charged interest, and to be able to afford this necessary upgrade, which hopefully will come to fruition. So I would just hopefully, Joel, that our contingency buffer, as I call it, we really tight, got the lid screw shut down tight, and we run an efficient ship here to trim that back so we can bring the 27.50 back, but that's a bit of a buffer for an overrun. So I would hopefully we can do that, and to make it easy on our ratepayers, because I feel sorry for them, and I reckon I feel so good that we've got here. I'm just so disappointed. We've got a couple of more steps to take and we haven't quite done it. Thank you.
I've got a question. You say that you need 600,000. If you divide that by 220 residents, the amount that you would be asking, rounded up properly, would be 2,728. If you times 2,750 by 220 residents, that means that you get an extra $5,000. Where's that going to go?
I can answer that. We will know the exact number before you're actually charged, because this will start on the 26-27 year. And so they're numbers that we know, best guess now. There will be no money coming back into council's pocket. We actually will know when we bill you, because this will, as Joel said, it's a very short project. It will be finished by Christmas, just after Christmas. We will know the actual cost by then. So that's the number.
So you guys don't really have a definite idea how much this is really going to cost and how much we're going to pay.
No,
It's all still grey zone.
sorry.
Is the upper limit. So we will only charge, it will definitely not be above that.
Who are you, sorry?
Sorry, I'm Jonathan Peach, the Deputy Mayor. Okay, so that figure will be an upper limit. You will not be charged above that at all, but you may be charged less than that based on the final figure for the project.
And when do we get that refund if we pay before you know that?
That's what the CEO just tried to explain, is that you will not be charged that figure at all until the cost is known. So you will not be asked to pay something that we might have to refund. You will only be charged for the actual cost of the project as finally delivered. The 2,750 is the upper limit. It's the maximum that you will ever be charged. We are hoping, depending on final outcomes, that it will be less than that.
Yeah, but you're saying you want $600,000. You're asking us to pay $605,000 and the upper limit. So how much are we actually covering here?
So the timing is the important thing here. These figures are for the project, and remember the project, SA Water are ready to go as soon as we say we're ready to go. It's about a 12-week build and maybe a 4 to 6 weeks. So that's maybe 3 to 4 months. So that takes us to about Easter of next year if we get going this year. We will, and your repayment plan or your billing for this won't happen until the 26-27 year. So in your first rates notice for 26-27, we will actually know the cost, because the whole project is finished by then and SA Water have billed us. So these figures are showing, as Councillor Peach said, the upper limit, but the timing means that you won't get a bill from Coorong District Council until the 26-27, your first rate instalment of next year. So you've just had the 25-26 one. It's just come in now, the same one next year. So it's now 12 months' time will be the first time you'll get a bill for this project.
All right, so next question is that we pay for your water. Is there going to be an overlap when we pay for the council water and SA when they start charging? Is there going to be an overlay?
So we will try to minimise that, because, Joel?
I think we'd find a way that wouldn't occur.
One will stop, the other will start.
We would not expect that to be something that you have to withstand.
But you haven't worked it out. It's a maybe.
Well, it depends how quickly we can get started with construction.
We can say we won't do that now. We'll just cut one off and start the.
We would not overlap. We would not allow overlap. We understand the challenge that we're imposing here. We're not about to deliberately make it harder.
So the end result is that even though we might say, the whole community will say, no, we don't want to pay this money, you guys have got the final decision on it. And probably because it's got this far, I think most councillors agree with it. So it'll be voted in. And then if those that can't pay it and have to be put on a smaller part payment, they'll be charged interest. And we've paid for $600,000 worth of piping that SA control. Do you think that's a good deal?
You put me under pressure, don't you? Do I think it's a good deal compared to? So if I was in your position and I felt that I wanted better quality water, someone told me they paid $1,000 for water a couple of weeks ago. I suppose this looks better. Yeah. Well, you must use the wrong contract. But so it depends, I suppose, where your barrier point is. Are you happy to, if you're on rainwater, to go on using it? If you're not worried about the quality of the water, if you want to use a lot of water at the present system, if you front the water or if you don't, and that's one of the dilemmas I face. Well, we face. Sorry. Yeah. Crap. Yeah, that's right. So, finding a way to make better quality water. This is the challenge we've got. Yeah. So when you portray it like you did, I suppose, yes, you could say, oh, it's not a good deal. But if you look at it in another way, well, to get potable water, $4,000 if SA Water went past to give it, better deal. Yeah. So it depends, I suppose. That's the challenge, A, as brutal as we like here, also for the elected members, is to decide what's a fair outcome. Go to the lady and I'll go to this green lady.
Sorry. We only moved here into Jefferson Court last year, and all our lives we've been farmers. We've had to provide our own water, sewage and everything. And I think it's fantastic that someone's going to provide me with potable water. Okay, it's not a cheap exercise. And like you said, if it doesn't go ahead, you will lose your funding. And if we decide not to have it, and the system that we've got now, those pipes fail, I can guarantee you it's going to cost you a whole lot more than $3,000 to get a decent water supply. And I'm saying double or more. Yep, it's hard, but I think we need it. Plus, it will increase the value of our property no end. And beg your pardon? It will increase our property no end, and I know that I'm not going to be living there forever. So if I'm not selling it, my children will be, and they will benefit from the sale of that property. And if someone's coming in to buy and they know that we don't have potable water, they're going to give us a miss, because to me, that's something that we all need. And we also understand that there are more and more people coming into the state. There's supposed to be a new building at Gifford Hill. Is it Gifford? Gifford Hill? Gifford Hill. There's going to be thousands of houses put there, going to be more pressure on the water system. I'd say let's bite the bullet and put it on. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, do we know if SA Water will be charging additional on top of what the council will be charging for connection or otherwise?
Short answer is no. No. You just go to SA Water's standard, what they call postage stamp. Billy's listening and Stussy. They have a very standard process across the state, which we could argue is large cross-subsidy in rural areas. You just could argue that really. So that would just go to their standard pricing, which they adjust every year. You just
Basically, what you pay at Tailem Bend.
Yeah. So we'll stop charging you on a certain date. They'll start charging you. Pretty straightforward. And then we've got to find the $2,750 maximum. That's basically how it'll work.
May have to pay SA Water.
No, not for a connection when you're in a present connected group. Got to be careful, because there's some people that we call The blue people, no, the meters, most of them will be upgraded as part of this process. Fire plugs, meters, it's all, there's been a lot of work done by SA Water. They're not going to take an asset on that's not to their standard today, and I take Wendy's point. That's just the reality, and that's been, I suppose, proving that over the last 3 years, probably in lots of investigations, and that's where we've spent over 200,000 on an asset management report, and so to find out exactly what we've got and what we'd give. I'm going to go to this gentleman.
The quick one, when you're flushing the pipes, I look after the John White wetlands, and I'm a bit worried about all the chemicals and chlorines and all of that, because we've got an awful lot of plants there.
I'll take it on notice, but I presume that they will retain it somehow. It won't just be put down the drain. Yeah, they will retain it and dispose of it.
Confirm that.
But I need to confirm that. Yeah.
We'll go down the drain and they will end up in the John White.
I'll take it on notice, but I would assume that they have. They will have a set standard and regulations that they need to undertake that task to that meets EPA requirements. Yeah, but the fashion that they will have to do that in will have to meet EPA requirements. And so that's probably my initial response. The exact detail of how they will go about that, I probably need to find out.
You put that up.
John will be. You'll be precise and maybe.
So, just like with questions like that, what I will say is we are constantly updating the ask questions on the website. So if there's something like that we've had asked that's not been foreseen before, we add it to the questions kind of on a weekly basis at the moment.
My question is to Bridget. With the criteria for the hardship policy, I'm just wondering what that process is for people who are experiencing that, whether it's confidential, obviously, and meeting with staff and people that they may know in the district, whether there's forms online that can be completed with, and communication via emails rather than perhaps attending the office, which could make people feel uncomfortable.
All of the above is available. And so what we might even do on the website, that space where it's talking about the frequently asked questions, we'll also put the hardship policy up there rather than you having to hunt around and find it on 2 different places. But you can do it online, you can do it over the phone with people. All those confidentiality things can be in place.
Just from a CFS point of view, the potable water will have a standard pressure that we can use. Fire hydrants around town, whereas at present we can't use any fire hydrants around Wellington East. It will suck the tanks dry, the pumps will trip out, and the only fire hydrant we can possibly use is up on the corner where Meningie and Ferry Road join. So from a CFS point of view, it's a good idea for the potable water.
Okay, mine's just a quick question. When they replace the SA Water to give us new meters, are they going to use a smart water meter or just going to be a standard water meter?
I'll know the answer.
I'll take it on notice, but I'm assuming they'll put the current day as they do for power, but I probably need to take that on.
And one point when the lady over there said about cost of water, we've only been here just on 18 months. We moved in the middle of the drought. It's cost us over $1,200 so far to truck water into our tanks. So if we had have had access to SA Water, we could have switched over to SA Water and run that at a less cost than what it's cost us to get the water trucked in. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, push it.
Is there a T-piece under the main Meningie Road already there?
There's a stub, there's a provisional 20 metres back on the north side of the intersection. That'll be the start point where they connect. No.
And also, I still don't quite understand why the purple blocks don't pay $2,750.
Because they're not going to be direct beneficiaries immediately.
Not immediately, but they're going to be beneficiaries.
Yep. But whether they choose to connect or not, they will be under SA Water's rating on legislation. They'll get charged a supply charge, whether they use it or not, or connect to it or not.
They're going to pay as though.
And then if they choose to connect to it, it'll be $4,500 for them to connect.
Yeah.
So
if you had an empty block of land in Salem Bend and you wanted the water, is that the price?
same. It's SA Water's standard price for a connection. They have a fixed amount, 4.5, depending on your, and then things that affect it are your lead-in length. If you go over 12 metres, it's an extra amount per metre that you need to get to your property, things like that. But it's generally fixed on their fees and charges on their website that they review annually and amend as needed.
Getting back to the lady here saying about water coming through earthenware pipes. I wouldn't have thought so, but do you think the mains, your water, your river water, does it come through earthenware pipes now in Wellington East, or is it all plastic?
Take that on notice, but I
would be
water pipes.
I don't believe they are.
Double check.
We need to just, rather than try and comment on that unknowingly, I'll got that as probably one of the things I follow up quite quickly. We'll add the information to, some of these questions that I'm taking on notice, we'll add it to the frequently asked questions on the website, or if you feel the need, you want a direct conversation with me as a follow-up in the coming week, just please call in.
Okay, thank you. Mike, back.
I've been a resident of Wellington East for 32 years. And I've been to many water meetings, many proposals. Nothing's ever eventuated. So this to me is something that's fantastic. I'm very happy with it, that we eventually can get water and I don't have to bring in water to drink and to do whatever I need to do in my home. I have 16 grandkids. I have 9, my wife passed away. There's 25 come and stay with me. And water's a real problem. And so I'm really happy to see that we've good quality water. So good on you guys.
Close to. I'm happy for everyone to have their say 10 times. We never have anything.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
My question is in regards to the sanitation, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work. So from what I can understand, you're saying you'll do, say, the first 2 roads and that'll all be sanitised. You'll have switched the water off. At night, you'll switch it back on again. Are you not going to contaminate the pipes that you've just sanitised?
That's a good question. I'm assuming they can quarantine what they've sanitised, but you raise a very good question that I'll probably, my SA Water counterparts, get some feedback. Part of the frequently asked questions. I have posed that to them, and we've sort of asked some loose questions around that process and how it will occur, and they sort of said, well, it'll be segregated and that. I can only go on described it thus far, but I do understand that it's of particular interest. So I'll look to maybe get a lot more detail around it
for people to understand how it will work and occur and all the EPA considerations and things like that.
We will put that, because we won't be controlling that part of the process, we'll put it up on the website as well. Or a link anyway to the SA Water.
Sorry. Just Emily back here to sort of give me some information. So SA Water, I mean, we meet with them weekly at the moment. They once there's more certainty around the way ahead here, they will be absolutely forthcoming with every bit of information you need to know around the particulars of construction, sanitisation, the transfer process. When will you stop being a council customer? When will you start being an SA Water customer? All of that very detailed information will come from them because they handle the process.
Okay. Last bids. So, and for the people online, so we'd like to formalise the public consultation by the 26th of September, but it will come, we understand at this stage, all things being equal, to the October ordinary council meeting for a decision. I'd encourage everyone to have a say in whatever version of communications you like with us. And commentary and questions, and Joel's always available, but he's always available, particularly on a Friday afternoon until then, to answer questions, the technical ones around it. We'll do a bit more work, Bridget, with what the hardship policy does look like. Put that up as well, because that applies to all rates at all times, I might add. There's no further questions. Joel, you got a question?
Not for you, mate. Like the feedback's critical, like good, bad, indifferent. We need as much of it as possible. That helps inform us really well. If you hear of people that haven't had the chance to receive the information, give us some feedback. Please let us know. If you haven't yourself, please let us know. Call customer service. They'll take a message. It'll come through to me. We can schedule a time to chat. Email, I'll get back to you. We're responding to everything via the information that we've got. And get the feedback, understand where people's minds are at. I think that's it from me, Mr. Mayor.
I feel like I'm with the two Ronnies, but I don't know. I think I know which Ronnie I am by size. So thank you for your attendance. Some of you for twice. That's good, because we as elected members have got to sift through all that and make a decision. We appreciate that process. I'd very much just thank the staff involved at this point in time in front of everyone, because this has been a very large project, probably the largest one, I think, to get at this point for council. It's been a very tortuous process around do it and how would it happen and who would fund it and who would manage it and all of that. And we don't like bringing you this option of asking you to contribute, but we've got to look at other parameters as well. There's no further questions. I'm going to declare us finished, please, and have a safe trip home or a safe evening. It's we Thursday night tonight, aren't we? See how much footy training. I don't think I've been to that for a while. Thank you, everyone.